G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talks Stuff Ukraine War update for the 6th of February 2025. The war continues, though the peace talks continue. Zelensky continues to quibble over territory that neither wants him and, of course, wants nothing to do with Ukraine. Why this is so hard for people to understand, I do not know. Liberalism, of course, is the problem. The liberal establishment wants to get its way and is totally willing to put profits before people's lives. Every accusation by a liberal, of course, is a confession. They openly support the war while claiming this is a bankers' war. They've claimed every war is a bankers' war. Who pays the left, though? Who funds the left? This is absolutely confession by projection. They blame the right, but it's the left. Every time. Now, not all sources of explosions are explained, but Russia has launched a massive drone and missile campaign against the military infrastructure of Ukraine, particularly transportation. Though, yeah, what's the point of targeting air defenses, right? Targeting air defenses, they replace them. It's deliberate to make them waste missiles, make them draw out the economic pain. Right? This is war is primarily economics. Now, on the logistical side, the territorial side, Russia is slow but deliberate. They don't want all of Ukraine. All these people are saying, we're winning because they only took a quarter of Ukraine. Well, it's not even a quarter yet, and they don't want all of Ukraine. People always love to insert opinions when they have no answers. Instead of learning, they're assuming. And that's why the majority are always in the mud. Right? It's not because they're idiots, it's because they refuse to learn. Now, we don't know for certain why Russia has shifted positions, but it may be because they don't want Kupiansk. They merely want to draw the Ukrainians into combat, to draw troops off other areas. Right, I've often said this is a bear trap, the shift and changes around Kupiansk, but so many people want to think that it's because Russia's losing, or because Ukraine is so brave, so stunning, so powerful. Right, again, it's this time, so many liberals want to live vicariously through the Ukraine war. We're winning resistance. No, you're a fucking armchair muppet. But in the Lyman area, Russia's made significant advances, but have not entered Lyman. But they are on the southern end of Lyman, and they've taken lots of territory in the process, and they've broken through the Ukrainian lines here as well. But again, they didn't go far, and Ukraine's defenses are layered. They don't just have one trench, they have lots of trenches all the way back. They're not they don't put all their eggs in one basket. They're not Call of Duty players. Okay, they are semi-competent. They're just, despite the fact they're outnumbered, they're outgunned. And obviously the Russians I wouldn't say technically superior, that more like they're just goddamn meaner, right? I think Ukraine, despite its we're defeating our homes, we're supposed to be ferocious bears. Nah, they're not. Okay, they're not, and their war fatigue is setting in. Now the Russian Duma has, of course, announced they want Putin to end this war, and the left go, "Oh, look, the Russians are surrendering." No, as I've said many times, you got to read their statements, right? The Russian Duma has asked Putin to increase the firepower to bring victory closer. Actually, I think I'll change the title. Yes, make it, clear. People are so selfish when it comes to politics. See, politics is about polluting the truth with propaganda to get you. It's manipulation to get your own way. But on the battlefield, no matter how much you lie, it doesn't bring about victory. Okay? Saying that Hitler had one ball did not change the outcome of World War II. Okay? They used to sit around laughing at how absurd some of the propaganda was. Right? Most propaganda is not successful. Well, on men. Most propaganda. But, I mean, you compare propaganda in the 40s to the 60s to the 80s to the 90s. It has gotten better, right? But still, most of the time, the left are obstinate, stubborn as mules, self-deluding, always ignoring reality. You take out all the good in people and they are what's left, right? You have a war, they are what's left, okay? The left are the dregs of society who just refuse. It's not because they're stupid, it's because they refuse to learn, okay? They found something that gives them power, right? And they can't let go of their blankie, okay? And Ukraine is their blankie, right? They don't want their blankie to go away, right? Now, it is weird, and I had postulated that Russia was going to cut Kursk. We're never going to take Kursk. Right? No, then again, I thought they wouldn't cross here either. I thought they were setting up a border. But you never know what they want. Okay, we don't know the discussions behind closed doors. We don't know the battlefield commands. We don't know Putin's discussions with the other leaders about what they could achieve in Ukraine, what do they want to achieve in Ukraine, and how they achieve 110% for negotiating position. And that is going off standard tactics, right? You don't go for 100%, you go for 110%. So when it comes to negotiations, you give up, you have something to give up, right? Now, as we see as the battle across most of the battlefield, right, there is places they've made advances and then stalled, other places they've stalled for some time, but then they were stalled here and boom, no longer stalled, right? This is a bear trap, waiting on the troops to encircle Harishny, advance through here, and then they will basically begin it's to drain troops off, right? Drain troops off other areas and grind them down. And most of the battlefield is becoming static, right? But now, just because it's static today doesn't mean it's not going to be static tomorrow. And sometimes it'll be static for months, and then there'll be brief fighting. But Russia's made advances, but they still haven't taken these two towns completely. The Ukrainians still hold on at Hulipol, but the Russians are grinding them down. most of the, let's see, Ukraine lashed out like a child. Ukraine claimed a missile strike. Flamingo, yes, one of, yes, we hit you with one missile. We're so good, we're so good. Oh, they hit us with many missiles. Not fair, not fair. Yeah. But millions of people want to be deluded over Ukraine rather than the truth. Who's really suppressed, right? And of course, a lot of your pro-Ukrainian channels are so well funded, and of course they have amazing battle footage, the best battle footage that CGI can create. Another bullshit ceremony, right? Zelensky looking bored. At least the rest of the Ukrainians are professional. How can Ukraine put up with Zelensky? He's bored. He's selfish. Can't even show proper respect. It's a solemn location. He's like, I just wandering along with my little moustache. Now, Ukrainians shelled the Russian city of Belgrade. Of course, Zelensky complains all the time that Russia only attacks civilian targets, but that's, of course, to distract from. That's confession by projection. Classic. It is common. It is the most common form of propaganda to accuse your enemies of doing what you do. The Europeans will never, ever call out Zelensky. I mean, this is pretty much Saddam Hussein, or, you know. Saddam did less, right? Zelensky's waged war on his own people, so did Saddam, right? Saddam attacked civilian targets in Iran. Well, and you have here Zelensky attacking civilian targets in Russia. What's the difference, right? One's a Muslim, one's a Jew. That's the difference. We shot the Russia launched missiles, but we shot them down. But somehow they blew up stuff anyway. Yeah, they mostly targeted rail. Like I said, mostly logistics today. But Ukraine and Russia has agreed to another meeting that's going on now. Right, they exchanged prisoners of war, which took place yesterday. Yeah, 157 prisoners each, and 3 civilians that were taken captive by Ukraine from Kursk have been returned. Some have been held for 4 years. This next round of talks. Okay, so the talks today are about talks likely in the US. Trump has put his foot down, demanding that there better be something productive. Otherwise, yeah. But Zelensky wants to be a global leader for air defenses and Soviet-era MiG-29s. These air defenses are outdated, according to many, as well as the MiG-29s. But you say, but with outdated equipment, Ukraine is holding back all of Russia, but they're not. They're only holding back a fraction of the Russian army, and you outnumber them. So you outnumber the Russians in Ukraine, and you still can't win. right? You still can't push them back, right? You keep talking about how you want to increase every day. Zelensky's promising to increase the casualties of the Russians. You have many across social media calling Russians orcs. You know, this is the dehumanization process that Europe underwent against the Germans. Calling out the Hun. We're calling out the Hun every day. We're calling out the Hun. Right? Same thing. Right? Now, only a third of countries support a declaration on deployment of AI in war, with China and the US opting out. 35 of 85 countries want this AI in the military domain. You know, it's all virtue signaling, right? At least Trump has lended support to Viktor Orban, right? Ukraine and their propaganda, but it's not working, right? Propaganda is not ending war fatigue, right? But both sides have, to some extent, yes, both sides have to report, but the amount, that Ukraine has put into everything is just sheer ludicrous waste of time, money, and effort, right? But of course, we never get the whole truth from anybody anymore. So just because it's Russian news doesn't mean the Russians... I mean, you can fact check, right? But that doesn't mean they haven't left stuff out, right? Now, civilians have been trickling back from Kursk for some time. Russia took hostages, but whether or not Putin gave Ukraine anything in return for these hostages, we don't know. Maybe they got some of their Azov battalion buddies back. That's about it. Or maybe Putin stopped killing Ukrainian spies and put them in prison instead. But neither side is happy, and that's a good thing, right? In negotiations, neither side should get everything they wanted, unless they're that clever, and then, they get what they deserve, right? Rare few people in negotiations get everything they want. That's usually corruption, or collusion, or both. But sometimes you get a clever negotiator like Trump, who's planned and prepared and coming in with a 110% proposal, knowing that he's going to get pushed back. Now, 157 each was the final tally. Delegations agreed upon the exchange. Now, this is the first live exchange in 5 months, not the first exchange in 5 months. There were exchanges of bodies in the past. Again, this is progress, right? But this has come, of course, at the cost of staring at Zelensky and saying, give us something or we're walking away. Give us something or... The Ukrainians... I really wish more people would wake up and smell the bullshit from Ukraine. But unfortunately, the Europeans, they got their heads so far up their ass, they clean their tongue. They clean the back of their teeth with their tongue, okay? There's no talking to them. There's no saving them from themselves. There's no saving Europe, okay? It is so full of nasty old people, right, who have for decades have harbored nothing but ill will towards Russians, that they want war, okay? And of course, none of them, they're all gutless wonders, right? They keep complaining about the Russian herd, but then they welcome refugees, It's like, you're full of shit, okay? You turn a blind eye to all the ills of the world and your own side. For what? For a utopia you'll never see. For a God who's going to look down on you and say, you destroyed my creation, fuck off now, get to hell. Right? These people have no concepts, right, beyond me, myself, and I deserve to be in heaven because we're so good. When in reality, all their virtue signaling, they only want refugees because they want to hurt men. They only want, they're only thinking about their own pleasure. Oh, brown people, I'm going to be so out, they're going to worship me. Or they're going to lick my feet and do all this stupid, they worship white women. Oh, let's bring in the millions. They worship white women. They absolutely are selfish and don't think for a second, right? You never listen with your ears, right? Use your eyes as well, right? Your ears and eyes will deceive, right? The disconnect between what people say and do is deception, right? So negotiations continue behind closed doors, but again, it's believed that today is just talking about the next meeting, right? That they've done their prisoner exchange to show goodwill, right? We don't know who initiated the prisoner exchange. This is always political, so that the Ukrainians can come home and say, we got Putin to bow to our demands. And all their supporters go, oh, you're so stunning, so brave. And nobody thinks anymore, right? And it's just pantomime. It's just all fear. All right. All right. You Russian rifle. All right. Okay. Now, AK-15, AK-15, it's an export model, right? Okay, because I thought the Russian forces were using the AK-97. Is there anything else in the update? Peace. Right, working on the peace document will take at least 1.5 months, according to a source that told TASS. That sounds about right. They would definitely use TASS. The Russian Foreign Ministry definitely uses TASS as its mouthpiece. So definitely this, if it's published by TASS, it's approved by at least Lavrov, if not Putin himself. Don't forget, Putin has given Lavrov and a few others autonomy, right? If you see a named Russian official, that's someone with a bit of power, right? If it's a spokesperson, there's only two or three of them, right? Despite the huge staff, right? Which clearly shows that because they speak English fluently, and they get positive reception, from the public. But also, yes, they have some autonomy because they are able to think on their feet. They need to be able to think on their feet, and they're not stupid, unlike Jen Psaki. Now, doesn't mean that Russians are better, though many times they're better than their obviously delusional counterparts in the UK, who's particularly the clown in the Home Office, who looks like she stuffed her face with every bowl of rice there is to have. Talking about rice and bananas, I tell you, man, these people. It's not racism though when an Indian does it, rice, yeah, right? But peace talks, okay, prisoner exchange. But just to show you, the Russian economy is collapsing. They're collapsing. The Russian Defense Ministry just put a new satellite in orbit. They have successfully put a new satellite in orbit, right? They have lots of, not many, but compared to some countries, they have more projects going on. They have, the 176 spacewalk. They got projects with Saudi Arabia and dozens of other countries. Well, definitely there is a power struggle going on in Kazakhstan right now with China. Russia is getting support from India, and they're putting pressure on China to back off. The Chinese are trying to undermine the Russian rail project there. The Chinese are very upset that they did not get the project. Do you know, you hear all the time about high-speed rail. Do you know less people use Chinese high-speed rail than anywhere else, than any rail system in the world, right? They've got 9 lines and more people take the bus, right? Tokyo, Japan, high-speed rail makes sense, right? They use, Tokyo, it makes sense, right? If you're going to concentrate a lot of companies, you can't have people living, right, in a traffic congestion, right? Too many high rises. So you have a high-speed rail cheap to bring office workers in every day, right? They have your cheap office workers. Instead of subsidizing their living in the city, you put in a high-speed rail network, right? Bring in a few hundred. I mean, it's only a few hundred each train, right? This is the thing, right? People don't think, though. No. We got to have high-speed rail. Why? Well, because other people got it, of course. It's like, well, why do we want the tunnel? Because the French hate the tunnel. And then when the French want the tunnel, no, we can't have the tunnel. The French want it. It's ridiculous, right? Nobody thinks about what is the most efficient project at the time. So for Russia to be able to engage in multiple foreign projects is a clear indication that their economy, unlike China, is, right, the Russian economy is growing, unlike China's. China's is negative 0.9% at best, right, when you take into account debt. And that's one thing Russia hasn't got. Russia has a slowly decreasing debt, which is the envy of the world right now. Now, Trump is trying to do something about that, but you'll keep having Congress stand in the way. They won't pass a revised spending bill. And one of the reasons why is because they're holding out for money for Ukraine, right? You have so many dogs who won't put their name to a document, and, of course, Republicans just won't hold their side to account and put their boot up these belligerents' ass and say, get that spending cut, 1%. That's all they care about. And it's the same in Ukraine, right? All Zelensky has no re-election to face, right? He knows as soon as this war's over, the opposition are going to pull a Churchill, say, oh, you've done a wonderful job, but the war's over now. Time to retire. You've earned it. You know. And then they'll flood the country with foreigners to rebuild the economy, because there's no way they're going to get $800 billion, let alone $1.5 trillion or 1.2, whichever they asked for, because I think they've asked for more. But now they're asking, instead of asking for a whole package, they're now asking for it in dribbles, so it doesn't sound so big. But it's adding up. It's going to be over 1.5 trillion by the... Where's it going to come from and how they're going to pay for it? You think they produce enough grain in 10 years to pay for that? Do you think there's enough minerals in the ground? If you took out 1.5 trillion in minerals, remember, with the world, if you watched all my videos, you'll know the world is overproducing as it is, right? More minerals, right? Ukraine is overproducing grain. It has unsold grain. Poland is ignoring its farmers, saying, stop the dump, right? We can't sell our grain, so cut off Ukraine, right? Now, Poland's manufacturing may collapse after the Ukraine war. We don't know how much they depend on these military contracts, which are subsidised by the rest of Europe. But Spain wants the UK back in the EU because Spain is losing money to the EU. No, really? Ha ha ha! Suck it, right? Because when the UK was part of the EU had a surplus, so Spain could fund all these socialist programs. Now, without the money from the UK to subsidise their hyper spending, but of course it's the same thing, right? The UK is Starmer's run the UK in the ground. Companies are leaving for the United States or Ireland, right, to pay less taxes. So there goes their tax revenue. So even if the UK comes back in the EU, they're not going to prosper again. This is all delusion, right? It's all because some old biddies want their, think they're going to get a bigger pension because the EU is offering them a bigger pension, right? Where's that money going to come from? They don't care. Just kill some kids. They don't care. Just kill more kids. Close schools. That's all they care about is how much they can take to the end. The Ukraine war is just bringing out the worst in people. And if you wonder why my channel is oppressed, right? Because advertisers, no, we want bright, happy, we want you to sell our products. We don't care about your content. Oh yes, we do. We want you to, we want everybody to say Ukraine is winning, Russia's losing, we destroy Russia, we should march on Moscow, and all those other propagandist bullshit. We destroyed $1.2 trillion project in Moscow. We collapsed the $1.2 trillion aircraft. We destroyed 1.2 trillion in tanks. Every day it's some fucking pie in the sky bullshit. And some cases, millions of people are watching sometimes. Sometimes it's down at the viewership overall. I'm talking Ukraine war viewership. Sometimes only peaks at 393k, right? People are obviously, it's fluctuating wildly, but most of the time, war fatigue, right? And I get it. I really do. But YouTube hates this channel. It really does. I really need people to subscribe and to share the links. To please like the video. If you got this far, please. So please support the channel, right? Now, if you're I need your financial support. Okay, you can support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy merch. All my links in the link tree, description below, in my profile, or scan the QR code on the screen. Please and thank you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.